What's up, No Horsing Around family? Took a deep breath and just thought it would be a great time to jump on here. I know Colts Nation in general, we're all kind of a little bit down on this 0-2 start. So I thought this would be a great time to have a segue, just like it says on the banner. Who's to blame for the 0-2 start? Do you blame Ballard? Do you blame Wright? Do you blame the team? Do you blame a certain position group? And I think the answer is check, all of the above. I think every single facet of this operation has had some shortcomings. This might be a little more of a negative podcast than we've had in the past. But also we like to live in reality. We like to talk about the problems, work through it, and then just kind of, figure out what we think as a community, as Colts Nation, using your voice. That's why we always ask you to like, rate, review, share, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and let everybody know that we're asking you to join the No Horsing Around family. So let's just dive right into it. We'll start with Ballard. He could take a fair amount of blame in this, right? Like his blame to me would be depth at the offensive line position, and then just depth on the back end. I don't think that, for me, I don't think he did a good enough job. I do think he made an attempt. He went out there and signed Reich, and, he had some guys who he thought Will Holden was going to be a little bit better. He came into camp. He couldn't even win a spot on the, the 53. I think that, no matter if he tried or if he didn't try, he neglected a position that's so valuable, and a position that he preaches, in the trenches. And he took, in my opinion, Colin Granson. There's a lot of people that are very high on him. I don't have a problem with Colin Granson. Luxury pick, in my opinion. You could have gotten a really, really good guy to develop, taking your time and maybe accelerated that with these injuries that have happened. He hasn't done a great job of putting that swing, that utility tackle. He knew coming into the season Eric Fisher may or may not be ready to go. We got so lucky. He missed 1 week and he came out and he looked to be actually pretty good in his role over the weekend versus the Rams. He doesn't seem to be the problem. Davenport doesn't get a pass for me. I know a lot of people say, well, he was playing against the best defensive player in all of football. That's fair, but he's been bad when he hasn't played against the best player in football. So you don't get a pass from me. You don't get a 1 week pass when you've been bad pretty much all but one game in the preseason. You haven't been solid. And we'll get into the offensive line group and some position groups here in just a bit. But that falls on Chris Ballard, right? Like, that falls on him. He's the person that's constructing this team. He and Ed Dodds, his right-hand man, it's their job to put this team in the best possible position and have the depth that they need to win football games. Injuries are a part of football. I mean, and if you don't have, in modern day NFL, if you don't have 7 offensive linemen that can play and at any time, you're going to have to expect, last year was kind of the outlier, not a lot of injuries across that line. That's just not reality in the NFL. It's a brutal sport. These guys are going to get hurt. And quite frankly, when you sit guys out most of the preseason, you don't have a normal OTA schedule, and they go out and they have to press that button 0 to 100 in a matter of one game. You're going to have a lot of these injuries because a lot of these other teams are just much more prepared and much more calloused up and ready to play football right away. We're clearly not ready to play football week 1. And we can debate that on another podcast. That's not what this is about. It's just who's to blame. That's why we want your comments in the YouTube videos. You guys do such a great job of interacting with Steven and I. We'll switch on over to Frank Reich, and he plays his part too. We all know that Frank Reich, and we've come to love his aggressive nature in football. I think there's a difference between being aggressive and, and just making really, really costly calls that cost your football team. You knew you were coming off of a week where you lost a bad football game. You struggled to score points. We all love it, and it looks great when you go for it and you punch it in. But there were times where he could have taken the 3 points, and how important would those 3 points have been in that football game? How would that have changed the play calling with Jacob Eason coming at the end of the football game with a tied football game versus a football game where he had to go down at least get a field goal, if not a touchdown, to go ahead. How would that have changed that whole dynamic of having to hurry up and push that football down that field, on just the second pass of that series? And Frank Reich doesn't get a pass for me on this because I'm a huge Frank Reich fan. I believe he's a better leader than even a coach, really. I think he's a good X's and O guy. I've not given up on Frank Reich whatsoever. No matter what, I think he's really, really, all in all, I think he's a great, great guy for this organization. 0-2, I can remember back starting off 1-5, and Frank Reich found a way to get this football team back to playing, making the playoffs. So I don't really tend to give up on Frank Reich. He's always had that backup mentality, that fighter, that underdog story really works well with Frank Reich, and he just doesn't get rattled by a whole lot, but he has to take credit for his mistakes. And Frank Reich's just made some costly things. I think in this instance, you need to win football games. You need points to win football games. You're playing against very good football teams. You're not playing against, the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, you're playing against a team who's expected to at least compete for, a world championship. This coming January. You can't go down there and not start off on the right foot and not get those points. Hindsight's 2020. He punches that ball in. He looks great. We love Frank Reich. I think sometimes he gets in his own way, and his aggressiveness can really cost us in certain instances. And I think as time goes on, I'm hoping Frank kind of water finds its level with that, and he can get this team back in order. Good news is we win a game next week. Things play out well. We're tied for first place. Like, I know that sounds crazy, but we're tied for first place in the division. It's our first division game. So it's not all doom and gloom. And then we'll switch over to the team. These guys, especially at the key positions, got to play better football. Ryan Kelly's not been very good. I know he was hurt in training camp. That's the one guy on the line that's been so damn consistent for us. And of our real core starters, you talk about Braden Smith, Ryan Kelly, obviously Braden's got the foot injury. Nobody knows. That's kind of the biggest secret, on West 56th Street. Quentin Nelson, Eric Fisher. I think Nelson and Fisher played a sufficient football game. They did what it took, to help us win that football game. But you didn't expect that from Ryan Kelly. Glowinski's always been a little bit hit and miss, hot and cold. And you got to have a weak link on that offensive line. We all know Braden Smith didn't play good in week 1, didn't play at all in week 2. But we don't have an answer on that opposite side. So if what it's going to be, Julian Davenport, whoever you throw out there, it's just hard for me to believe that Chris Ballard exhausts all of these resources, always has somebody in the chamber finding somebody next man up. He can't find a better option, a more viable option. And they even doubled down on that. I think Frank Reich said after looking at the film, he kind of put a little bit of it on the tight ends and the running backs, which is there's some truth to that. They're coaches. They get paid to do this. Obviously, we just use our voices. We're just fans. It's a little bit of a cop-out, though. Like their offensive line just hasn't been good, and they just been getting punched in the mouth, pushed back. Everything comes back to Carson. Now, you're going to live and die with Carson's style, man. I mean, he's very close to Andrew Luck early years 2.0. He holds that ball a little bit longer. He wants those plays to come out because he's trying to beat you big time down the field. And with that, you're going to get hit more often, but not this often. It's too much. They're not holding up well. And I think I'm more disappointed even in the fact that they're not really running the football well. Like, they're not opening up big holes for this offensive, running back stable that we have, which was supposed to be, our core, our running backs, 4 really good running backs and a super strong offensive line. Like, that was supposed to be our calling card. And that's the part that's just so confusing right now about this football team. You scratch your head, you're thinking, our strongest position group heading in, our no-brainer position group, and they've not played well. Then it all just kind of trickles down. I've not really had a problem with Carson. I didn't like the shuffle pass. I know a lot of people say, it's an anticipation. Nah, man. If you anticipate a player that's heading in that direction, he just threw that football out there, man. He just threw it out there and just hoped and prayed something worked out. And it obviously turned bad on us. We needed those points desperately now that the game's over. Darius Leonard, to me, looks like he's hurt. He looks like a guy who's gutting it out. And this is what you get in the NFL. We're fans. Come on, man. We love those guys that go out and they fight and they play through all of these injuries. Well, you play through injuries like this, especially when you're a guy that's so reliant on athletic ability and speed. It is detrimental in some cases. I know he missed an interception. He's just not been great. Guy just got almost $100 million, and he's got to do more, man. I mean, he's just got to be around. He's got to stop getting pushed around. And this is the give and take in the NFL. Anthony Walker, in my opinion, was terrible in coverage, but was unbelievable downhill. He was a great prototypical middle linebacker, and he did a lot of that stuff for Darius Leonard. They've asked Okereke to do that. And to this point, training camp superstar Bobby Okereke is not translated into regular season superstar. He's not done anything. I mean, he's just not been that good. He's not really been anywhere on the field. So, and then Rock Ya-Sin is Rock Ya-Sin, right? He has had good moments. He flashes, but he really, really struggles against technicians because he's not a technician. So that's the opposite of what he does. These technicians, these Cooper Kupps that just dice you up with this great route running and these concepts of using their eyes and their body language to kind of get you off your spot. He struggles. He can't do it. He's terrible with his hand placement. At the line, if you'll watch him, kind of take a deep dive into it, a guy who hangs his hat on physicality doesn't even use his number one strength. He doesn't even put his hands up and hit the guy in the proper area up here. It's just always a lazy approach, in my opinion. We got a lot of things to work out, and we got a lot of things to work out quick. I expect a bounce-back game, though. I really do. I thought we played better in week 2. Horrible position for Jacob Eason, been sitting on the bench the whole game to have to come in there and do that. I thought it was a bad throw. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought it was a bad throw. I thought Frank could have done a little bit better of drawing up his best go-to 10-yard stick route. Like, let's give him his best route, the one that he's most comfortable with. Let's just feel him getting a rhythm. Let's just feel him get a first down. Had plenty of time there with timeouts, 2-minute warning, all of that good stuff. I know he zipped that ball out there to Zach Pascal. And that's his problem. He throws the ball 100 miles an hour every single time. It's going to work for him. It's going to work against him in some of those cases like it did in that football game. We don't know. It's too early as we record this. It's Tuesday afternoon. We don't know. We're probably going to find out more, and I wouldn't expect to get any real information on Carson Wentz till Friday. Frank always comes out on Friday, and that's when he's kind of the most candid about the injuries. He plays it off. He doesn't like talking about it up until that point. But we want to know. We want you to get this thing going. We want you to get these comments lit up. Who does the blame? Chris Ballard, Frank Reich, the team, all of them, 2 of them, 3 of them, 1 of them, none of them. Whatever you guys got to say, we just want to thank you so much, and we ask you to come join the No Horsing Around family. Until next time, peace.